Welcome back. We are here again with John Renkin, the fighting preacher, and excited again to be talking about rebuilding the man, what that looks like. And we here at Exceptional Gen had a great last month. You guys have watched this segment. Lots of questions have come of it, and let me tell you what, it has been so well received. A lot of you guys have written to us said, I didn't realize I truly didn't like myself, and I have been really evaluating all my life choices, and it's been a really healthy thing for a lot of you out there in the community to be able to see, what's been the impact to me? Why do I make these choices? What's the situation? They didn't realize by making these choices I hated myself. John, have you seen or had anybody contact you regards to, wanting to reevaluate their?
Yeah, I had a couple of people reach out to me on my Facebook that were already following me, and then started following you guys because of that segment. That really appreciated the talk on what self hatred does to us and how it affects every aspect of our life, from our parenting to our just day to day living.
Yeah, and that's something that we are so committed to making sure that young guys all the way up to guys, in middle age that are really focusing on how do I make choices that are better. And one of the ways is doing is once you've kind of discovered that about yourself is now kind of evaluating that I'm not the man I want to be. I don't understand, here I am at this point in life, and what do I do if I'm not the guy I want to be? Really spending time kind of meditating on what the next steps in life are. So, John, I thought we'd bring you on again today and talk about your thoughts around that. I think it's going to be another really great section for guys to learn from. And we're talking about things that men don't talk about. We're getting vulnerable about our insecurities, and that's super important. So, John, pastor, disaster, fighting preacher, good guy all the way around. As you know, he's got an amazing background in special forces training, MMA. You excited about the big fight tonight, John? You gonna watch it?
I am watching it too.
I know.
Um, my heart goes with Connor, but my head goes with Khalid. I think his wrestling is just going to be too much.
I think so too. I like Connor, but I don't know. Last time against Merriweather, he didn't fare so well. So yeah,
Yeah.
I love my Irish people though. So well, let's let's jump right into it. So talking about introspective thinking, that's really where we're focused at today. Um, what, in your opinion, John, tell us a little bit about introspective thinking and why is it so important as we begin to rebuild the man?
Well, it's perfect follow up to self hate because all of that stuff is internal, right? It takes place in an internal dialogue. It takes place in a manner where nobody else gets to hear it but you. And the the thing with introspective kind of thinking is that if it comes from the wrong place, then it's just going to take you down a spiral into even worse stuff, right? And so, really, once we've kind of understood this idea of our identity, we've corrected that, we've connected with God in such a way to really shed light on who we are as a person. Then the next step is that the Bible really talks about how our brain is kind of this last battlefield, and our inner thoughts really do matter. Jesus says it this way: it's out of the heart that the mouth speaks, right? So that internal dialogue is so important for us to adjust and to get straight. Critical thinking, and I mean critical in a negative sense, not in a like evaluating sense. But if I'm critical of myself, psychology today has proven that that's going to be destructive and it's going to take you back into a position of self hate. So once we kind of get identity, then we have to move into our thought life and we have to fix our thought life.
And I agree. And to remind you, those who are watching, is that John is a pastor, but we want to come at this also from the perspective that regardless of how you believe in your value set, we want to make sure that you're taking the time to evaluate this inner dialogue. We talked about the self hate last time, but at the same time, you know. A lot of you guys are coming from different places, and this is not necessarily a faith channel, not necessarily not a faith channel. We really want to make sure that everybody watching um, is led to a place that they are healing themselves, and that's really super important because we want you to be better men, you know, regardless of your value set. But at the same time, John is completely right that this cycle that you could be in by not asking these questions is extremely dangerous, and it will take you back. A lot of guys recognize, like they had last time, and said, "You're right. I really don't like myself," and they want to move forward, but they don't understand, like John said, the internal dialogue. So, John, in your opinion, what are some questions a guy should be asking himself as he's having this internal dialogue?
Yeah, I think the easiest way, at least for me, I think that probably I'm um, just like most American men. Um, I think the easiest thing for you to do when you're looking at this idea of internal dialogue and where you want to be and what you want to do is to find somebody that you respect, that you admire, and then ask yourself, what is it in me that can be fixed to make me more like this role model, right? Whoever that is. And the truth is that nobody is a complete person. We're all broken. It doesn't matter, believer, non-believer, superstar, not superstar. We're all broken people, right? So I might go to Bob for financial advice, and I might go to Rick for fathering advice because Rick has an amazing family. He does a great job as a father, right? So we want to look for people in our lives that we can model after. And that's going to help shift this kind of internal dialogue from I'm screwed up to what do I have to do to be more like this guy? Right. And that's not a bad thing. In most of my professional life, I've had to find people who had parts of my game that I was missing to learn from. In the business world, in the athletics world, the professional sports world, we all look for mentors who can help fill in the gaps in the parts of our game or our life that's weak. And it's not a position of weakness. It's actually a position of strength that we could humble ourselves, that we could come to somebody else to get that help and let them help us mature in whatever that area is. Like I said, it could be fathering, finances, work, it could be whatever it is.
Wow, you hit the nail right on the head there. I think is when you get to that point, recognizing that you can't do it alone. A lot of men feel I can do this, I can fix myself, and they fall back into those same patterns, whether they're dealing with drug addiction issues or pornography or any one of those things that really can knock us down as men. That they can't do it alone, and having those role models and those mentors. And we talked about this last time. Mentorship is so incredibly crucial to rebuilding men of today. That there are guys out there that not everybody has it together. Not everybody's perfect. Not everybody's the Instagram perfect that our society has painted them to be. Um, they may have a great physique, but inside they may be emotionally broken, or they may have the coolest car, but you know what, their wallet may have holes in it. So we want to make
Yep.
sure going to somebody and really clinging on to somebody. So I would say, as you're watching this and you're listening to John and I have this conversation now, one is you definitely got to get vulnerable and ask for help. Find that mentor, get to that person, and talk about your problems. I would agree with John that that is such a crucial step. Now, John, obviously, having it, finding the mentor, you're looking at somebody and saying, I'm struggling, man. I'm really hurting here, you know? And what are some other internal questions that you feel are important for young guys to be asking themselves today?
Yeah. Um, so once we've kind of found a model, the questions should come naturally. So, for example, what does Jay do well that I'm not doing? And then we can actually start to kind of dissect that, pull it apart, and then start to ask not negative questions, but positive questions. So Jay does this very well, and here's his process. So, what in my life can I change to start moving me in a direction to where I can be more like Jay, right? Um, and it's important. Psychology has, and there's a lot of information out there on this now. When I was a younger guy, there wasn't, but there is now. That if we think negatively, then we will act negatively. And so we have to reframe our questions, not from a negative standpoint, but from a positive standpoint. And in fighting and athletics, this is super important. When I was mentoring young kids in soccer, one of the things I absolutely stomped mud holes in was parents who spoke to their kids negatively. And I try to, in my speeches to the kids, instead of emphasizing what we don't want to do, I would take it and I would shift it to this is what we want to do. And there's a great video clip out there. I'll send it to you. One of the World Series, one of the guys was on TV talking about right before the seventh game. The thing that no player ever wants to have happen is to miss the ball and it go rolling right between their legs and lose the game. And then that happened in the seventh game. Um, and what happens is that the way that our brain functions is that if we speak negatively, what's going to happen is that the brain is going to interpret that and make that a reality almost. And so we don't want to say, I'm an alcoholic, I'm drinking too much. It's I'm free from alcoholism. I'm going to control my drinking, right? Because it really does set up this cycle of continuing destruction. And so when we talk about this internal dialogue, we need to understand that. And we need to really shift our questions into a positive question. So, for example, again, when I was coaching soccer, it wasn't, you know, no, you're not dribbling. You've got to do X, Y, and Z. It was, kids, remember, the goal is to work as a team. So I would shift the script not from what they were doing wrong, but to the ideas of the things that we wanted to do right. And we have to do that same thing in our own lives. And one of the ways to help do that is to start establishing this internal dialogue based on some keywords that will kind of help you think and process through.
I think you're exactly right. Keywords, asking positive questions, saying things like, I can overcome this. I can do better. I can focus on making sure that I don't make that choice again. Man, you just some real words of wisdom there, gentlemen, as you're listening to John. That he's truly a resource on this. His wisdom and years of training and teaching athletes and teaching warriors exactly this mindset. And when you change your mindset, it's amazing what you can accomplish. John, I think I've told you the story. I weighed 247 pounds 18 months ago, and now I'm hovering right around the 170 mark. And you know what? I didn't get that way because I looked at myself in the mirror and went, I'm fat. I'm fat. Oh man, I'm fat. I looked in the mirror and said, you know what? I can be a better version of myself. And every
Yep.
I get up, I may look at that picture of Fat Jay, look at it every single day, but it motivates me to get up out of bed and go and do the thing I can do. I think that's so crucial to rewire the way the brain thinks. That
Yep.
chemical psycho reaction is incredibly powerful. Major warriors, my athletes get in that mindset every single day when they go to either step in the ring or on the court or on the field, and they go, okay, I will do these things. I will practice these things. And I think that's another thing to think about is that you have to practice positive behaviors in order to be able to get them to be routine in your life. Um,
Yeah, and even if you're not in a place where you can practice them literally yet, so for example, maybe you're overweight, you want to lose weight, so you're obviously not in a position where you're at the weight you want to be at. A powerful component of this is visualization. So not only in the internal dialogue do we need to shift that to a positive, we need to also begin to visualize it in our brain. So if I hate this example, but it's an easy one. Everybody will get it. If I want to buy a brand new Lamborghini, the first step is that I've got to start to visualize me sitting in the seats of a Lamborghini, which is not anything I want, but some people might, right? So we've got to visualize the actual goal that we're after, and we've got to make that a reality in our own mind.
yeah, I think that could be more true. And we talked about things like vision boards, goal setting last time, as far as
Yep.
understanding self-hate. And these are where these concepts begin to kind of come together and begin to link up. Is that once you've taken the opportunity there, ask for help, asking positive questions, begin to practice this, and then you're visualizing it. You know what? And those connections are all going to hold together. And I think that's really super important. That you're right.
Yeah.
If you want a Lambo, picture yourself sitting in a Lambo. Now, again, I'm with John. Not necessarily my car of choice. Maybe a Ford F-150 Raptor would be my choice, but He's right. He's 100% right, guys. That you've got to think. Right, you got every single day. Get up, do the things you can do. I personally have a journal that I keep that every day I write down 5 things in, and gents, we'll be talking about that with goal setting. But it's these are the things I want to accomplish every single day. I've made that a routine, and it is a powerful driving force that I can do these things today. And John and I truly believe that you guys can too. That you can take the opportunity to get beyond your circumstances and accomplish things you've never accomplished before. There are hundreds of stories out there about men who have come from next to nothing and have built themselves into something. And it's amazing when you begin to achieve these things in your life, what you can do for the people around you. Then now you've got the motivation and the momentum to do just that. So, John, are there any more questions a man should be asking himself while he's doing this type of introspective thinking?
Yeah, again, I would go back to what is the end state, the goal. I don't want to jump ahead to what we're going to do later, but it's hard to ask questions if you don't know where you're going, right? And it's hard to know where you're going if you don't know where you start from. That's why in our first segment we talked about the identity, because it's so important that we understand who we are, because it's going to determine where we go and how we go.
Yeah, I think it's so important. You're right. Again, you're right, John. The fighting preacher hits it again, guys. He's got this wisdom. I think that as you listen to him, is the identity piece is going to drive this all along. If you don't know where you're going, it may be as simple as sitting down today with a blank notebook in front of you and asking yourself the question, what do I want to do? Who do I want to be? I'm not the man I want to be. Who's the man I want to become? And write those down. In fact, I've got a challenge that I like to throw out there. It just hit me while we're talking here is that, gentlemen, if you would take that opportunity, write that down. I'm not the man I want to be. I want to become. Take a picture of that and send it to us, because we want to show that there are guys out there that can take the opportunity to improve their life and their circumstance. I think this could be a really neat thing.
I'm going to grab something real quick because you brought this up. I didn't know you were going to say this.
I didn't even kind of hit me all of a sudden. I thought, man, this is a neat idea of who.
Yeah, I have a. Where's it at? I'm gonna pull it up. I do this every single morning.
All right, guys.
Just
to the routine of the fighting preacher here. This would be cool.
Yeah. So one of the things I do is I have an index card. I just unloaded my backpack, so I got to find where I put them at. But I have an index card because I'm going to show you. And every day I sit down and I write, what I'm after. What are my goals?
Yeah.
And it's so important that we do this. There, I have to find my journal book. It's so important to do this. I'm glad that you brought it up, guys. We can sit here and we can pontificate all we want, but you've got to have some action steps. And so part of your action steps is literally sitting down and I have dates on them and everything else from every day that I write these index cards. I'll just give you a couple of them. So right now I'm working on a couple of things. I'm in the process of losing weight too. So I've got a goal of a date that I'm going to weigh 200 pounds. I'm in the process of getting qualified to build a home. So by the end of next year, I'll have built my dream home. I've got on here some personal goals that I'm going to have 7 streams of income, that I'm climbing Mount Rainier, climbing Mount Elbrus, and then I own a 69 Mach 1. So,
nice.
And I do this every morning. Every morning I get up, I write this index card, and these are some goals that I have and some things that I'm after. You can also do this in your personal life, which you saw that I have blended kind of the idea of some of my personal goals, climbing some mountains and those kind of things. But on this card, if you're in a process where your journey is just beginning to figure out who you are, ask yourself some really easy questions. Do I have the job that makes me happy? If not, write down a couple of things that would make you happy. Is my family life the way that I want it to be? Am I happy with my marriage? Am I happy with my job as a father, with my role as a father and a mentor? And if it's not, then write out what it would look like to you to bring you that kind of joy and happiness. And the truth is that though oftentimes we make decisions logically, hopefully we are. The truth is the driver behind those logical decisions is our emotional values, right? So I draw great emotional contentment and fulfillment when my daughter sits in my lap and loves on me, because it shows me that I am being a good father. Because if I wasn't, she wouldn't. So that emotion pushes me to be even better, because I find great contentment in that, right? When my boys come to me for advice, and, hey, I'm dealing with this, how do I handle it? Those are rewarding to me. And so, if you would just take a couple of those ideas, am I content and happy in my job? If you're not, you need a new job, period. Um, because I think most of us would agree that I might not be happy in my job making $75,000, but I would take a pay cut to 50,000 to be thrilled by my job, right? Um, and then ask yourself, if I'm not happy with where I'm at, what would I do that would make me happy? If I'm not happy with my marriage, what would make my marriage better? And there's a great book out, Leadership and Self Deception. Don't get into the victim thing where you're blaming everybody else. This microscope needs to be only pointed at yourself. We can't control anybody else. We can't make anybody else do anything. So we can only fix what we are responsible for.
I think I want to keep that as our last point is, once you've asked the positive questions, once you've asked for help, once you begin to practice mentally and new positive behaviors, is don't be a victim. Don't be a victim. Take responsibility for your own actions and don't blame others. That, in a world today where we love to point fingers, we've been watching this take place with the Kavanaugh thing, and it's amazing to watch how both sides are fighting each other. And we're not going to take a political stance with that, guy. So don't tune out here. But at the same time, we go, if we would just take action and responsibility for our own decisions, how different
Yep.
would the world be today? And I think you can look at guys who are extremely successful in their life, and you can go, wow, if I'm going to model myself to embody the traits of some of those guys who are very powerful, I like it. I call it absorbing best practices. I look at that guy and go, he's got his finances together. That guy has his marriage together. That guy, is successful in his job. I take responsibility for my own actions. It's not easy. It's very easy today to be able to point the finger and go, well, it's that guy's fault. It's
Yeah.
that person's fault. They did this to me. And you all of a sudden you mire yourself in the circumstances in which you're in. And it can be extremely destructive and lead all the way back to self-hate. All
Oh,
over.
it will lead.
And you begin to have to rebuild the process.
Yep.
Get there and you're practicing the things that John and I recommend for you, it's going to be extremely healthy. And that's how we continue to rebuild the man. So, well, John, another great session together. Absolutely phenomenal. Thanks for giving us a little glimpse into your life and showing us your note cards. Those are powerful. It shows that we're just real dudes. We're not guys who are super successful health, gurus, self-help guys, but we're real guys. We're real fathers. We care about young guys all the way up to, to their 90s. It's been fun to see how Exceptional Gent has reached an entire segment of guys that we never anticipated it was going to reach. And we feel very blessed and very humble to be able to partner with guys like John Renkin. And folks, I want to make sure you're following John. John has some amazing adventures. He's got some amazing businesses out there. I want to make sure you guys know that he's a very diverse guy and travel guru too, might I add. He's a travel guru. Then we'll be talking about some of that down the road. I think that's a lot of fun. That self-care is part of that, and travel and self-care reflection.
Yeah.
You've been seeing that with some of our travel writer, Chris Mattingly. He's been doing some fun stuff traveling, and all these things tied together to make a better man. So, John, thanks for joining us again here at exceptionalgent.com, and we'll talk to you next time.
Great. Thanks for having me again.
Absolutely.